How's it going, everyone? It's Frankie Martinez with Heart of a Warrior Strength, and today we're doing another Coach's Chronicle. And today we're talking about communication within practice, communication within competition. How do we reach to the athletes? How are we talking to them? How do they respond? So on and so forth. So, first of all, let's talk about communication when it comes to so in me and at practice are two different things. So let's understand first, we're kind of going to go back into some of the stuff that we talked about during competition. So when we're in competition, the understanding is that if you're giving a cue, you're giving something that you're communicating with your athlete, that it's not overcomplicated. They can't process too much because everything is going to be more responsive, and at this point should be more automatic or autonomous. You shouldn't be looking to essentially rewrite the code of what they're already doing. So if you give 3 or 4 things, for example, it's too complicated for the athlete to compute, and they're not able to essentially perform under that circumstance. The other one is when you're in competition and you're telling the athlete all you got to do is go through the ring. They may not be responsive to you because they're irregulated in their mind, and their mind is in fight or flight response, correct? So last time we talked about essentially trying to regulate yourself during these moments. So when you're in a fight or flight response, you're not necessarily cognitively thinking about things. You're doing things in a responsive or flight or fight response, right? You're not really thinking things through. You're not weighing things out. So for a coach, the answer may be something very, very simple, like, get across the ring, or let the ball pass you, or push the ball out harder or farther, or whatever your cue is. But if you are an athlete, for example, I'm putting my mindset of an athlete right now and I'm panicking, you may not be thinking about the cue. You may be thinking about, oh my goodness, my life is over because I just fouled my first throw. So what is it, or how am I able to talk to me as a coach, talk to an athlete, me as an athlete now? How can I respond to a coach? So let's respond. So let's talk about just getting or coming down from that fight or flight response. So first of all, we have to stop trying to get the coaches. We're thinking like it's logical, right? We're not in panic mode potentially. We're just like, I don't have that pressure on me. So we're thinking all you got to do is just go down the middle, or all you got to do is just throw the ball in harder. That may not be an immediate response from the athlete because their brain is in either rumination or irregulation. So if your body is irregulated at the moment, you're not thinking about throwing the hammer. You potentially may be panicking, and your response to the panic could be something that you go back to your primitive mindset. So are instances, for example, in which this can be applicable to a relationship, for example. Even the moment is not rational, the moment is emotional. And when the moment is emotional, we need to first treat the emotional before we can get to the rational. So we have to move our brain from the regulated state, where our amygdala, which is where our flight or fight response is at. We need to move our brain out of that place, and then we need to move it to the more cognitive mindset, which is the frontal part of the body, or the frontal part of the brain, which is the frontal lobe. So how do we do that? We have to ground yourself first. And how do we ground someone? So everyone's a little bit different, and everyone may have a different response as far as how they're able to be grounded. Now, some of these things may be rooted into, let's say, childhood trauma, or childhood like happening. So when you're in your irregulated state potentially, and you're trying to calm someone down, telling someone to calm down may trigger them to be worse, right? So everyone's different. Sometimes the feelings are so overwhelming that they start to cry. And in that instance, as a coach, you have to be able to, say, hey, you got this. Or how do they respond? What do they look for security? So how do I feel security? So sometimes it's looking at them and saying, hey, like, remember who you are. You're the same person who's, second all time on my list at the school you're at. You're the same person who won the sectional championships last year. You're the same person, like reminding them of their accolades, and this calms them down because it reminds them of who they actually are, not the moment that they're living in. Some other people, they may have had more severe traumas when they were growing up or when they were kids, and you just need to put your arm around them, let them know you're still there, you're not going anywhere. You're like, hey man, or hey dude, I'm still here, and no matter what, I'm not gonna leave you. I'm here in it with you, and we're gonna stick it out. We're gonna battle, okay? And sometimes they just need the reassurance that you're not going to turn your back on them if you have a bad performance, that you're proud of them, that you want them to succeed, and that ultimately this is only a small little hiccup and it doesn't mean it's going to dictate the rest of the competition. So how you communicate is, first you have to regulate the emotional state, and then you regulate what you're actually trying to instruct, so the logical side, okay? So remember, to be able to properly communicate, in order for you to get through them logically, you have to get through them first emotionally. So how do you get through someone emotionally first? Is you have to help them regulate their mindset. May it be through a grounding technique, and we've discussed these before. It could be breathing, it could be something that's auditory, it could be something that's visual, or something that's texturized, right? Something that you feel. So help ground them first. May it be walking away, may it be any of the couple of 5 things that I listed. Help ground them first. Give them a pat on the shoulder, reach over, give them a hug, tell them something maybe that would distract their mindset from the immediate happening. For myself, like as a male athlete growing up, I got a lot of tough love. I didn't get a whole lot of understanding. It was a lot of like tough love, and there were only 2 coaches in my lifetime that were able to talk to me in a way where I believe truly through and through whatever they said was law, but it's because they were able to emotionally regulate me first, and then they're able to give me the direction logically into what I needed to accomplish. So if you do not handle the emotions first, you cannot get to logistics. If you do not handle the crying athlete because the situation is overwhelming, then that's the first thing you need to focus on. Don't worry about telling them about just, you do this, you do this. Hey, you need to let them know. Positive reinforcement first. I believe in you. I care about you. You're the best. These things are going to be positive things in order for them to be able to get out of this ruminating mindset or a regulated mindset, so that they're able to move forward and ultimately be able to compete. So again, I'm emphasizing this again. If you do not help the athlete, or if the athlete is not doing it themselves, you first have to handle the emotional part of the breakdown or the happening before you can address the rational part of the happening or the practice or the competition, okay? This is Frankie Martinez. It's the Heart of a Warrior Strength. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.